Hi everybody, this is Mike from RGBHQ. This is a video which looks at Demearth version 3. We've just done a video where we were looking at how to build London in the older version of Demearth, but as you may have noticed when we switched to the web page in the video, we saw that Demearth 3 had been released. So we're going to have a look at some of the new great tools that are in this release. So this is effectively a little mini review. So let's get cracking. First of all, just want to show you a feature that I missed in the last one, but it's now at the top of the list, which is a geocoder tool. So if we add that and then add a Demearth object, and that brings us into Mount St Helens. There we go, as we did before. But say if I wanted to have a look at somewhere in the Alps, just do that. Bang, there we go, we are now in the Alps. So let's go to New York. There you go, Manhattan staring us in the face. Much quicker, much easier, and now that everything's been reprioritized in the new Demearth menu, just use this instead of going to a map source such as Bing or Google Maps unless there's a specific element that you need. So let's go back to the Alps. Okay, that's great. And we are just going to download, actually no, let's go back to London, because there's some new UV features in Demearth 3 that are worth looking at. Before, UVing was a bit of a, it worked, but it wasn't great. But now, if we add some OSM objects, and everything is working much better with the new Smart Extruder. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So Smart OSM, and then we are going to download the buildings. So request from server. There you go, there's some buildings from London, and then Smart Extruder. Now the other thing that's worth noting is over here, Demearth is organizing everything for us. This is, not that it wasn't particularly hard, but it's good to have for noobs, especially people coming to the program and just not used to Cinema 4D in the way that its conventions work. Demearth is doing all of this for us, which is very cool. Okay, so here we have London, and as you can see, there's a bit of a gradient on the building in the texture, which is great. We've got some little pieces, and you know, they're all here. We can put in floors if we want, but we don't need to. But the other main great thing about this is if I make a new material, just to show you how well the UVs are now working, and then I'm just going to add a new image. It's just a standard UV grid, and then apply that over that texture, switch that to UVW mapping. We can see, if we look at that in the top view, we can see our UV map, and if we just zoom in, we can see that the UVs are applying to the sides that we want. So much more straightforward to work with UVs and get a working model out of Demearth, say into another application such as Modo or Maya. And all in all, very handy for texturing workflows. So that is great. The other thing that we're going to look at, and probably the key element within Demearth version 3, is the new GeoModifier tool. So we're going to add a new object, and this time we are going to go to the Alps, and we're going to download some maps, find Google Satellite, and then just pump up the resolution. There we go, all very beautiful and scenic. Don't need the strata on, so I'm just going to switch that off. Okay, so we have a Demearth object, just as we would. But what happens if you want to apply this for motion graphics, if you wanted to have this map just appear, or if you wanted it in a specific shape, a certain section of it is all that you wanted to show. Before, that would involve breaking it down into an object, cutting it, using modeling tools, but with the new GeoModifier tool, we don't need to do that. I want to create what works well, a tube. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom that out. I'm just going to narrow the distance and lift that up so you can see that. Okay, I've made a sectional element and I just want to drop that into a slice and increase the radius of that a bit. So if we were to look at that in plan, that's the area that I want to see, is this. I just want a map of that C section there. So instead of spending hours with the Boolean tool, I just add the GeoModifier, and there you go. How hard was that? And if I switch that off, there you go. And all we need to do to create a bit more detail is in our object, just start adding more segments into our geometry. And there you go. Now, because this is still a live object, I can adjust the section of it. And we could obviously we could animate that. And we can increase or decrease our radius to show more. So I'm hoping that you can see how useful a tool like this is, but we're not just done there, because if I put that there, and make this into a group, and we duplicate this, it works with more than one object. And this stability is not just Cinema 4D, it's how well Cinema plugins have work with Cinema 4D. It's sort of a great thing about their plugins, they're always rock solid. So there we go, that's lovely, and just, I mean, it's just hugely powerful. And it doesn't just need to be Pac-Man shapes on top of the landscape. It can be MoGraph. So let's get rid of that. Add a plane. Drop that into our little group. There we go. And we'll decrease the size of that. And we are now going to add that to a cloner. And we are going to grid array and switch up to 1, 5, 5. Let's make this array a little bit bigger. That way and that way. And knock down the size of our array, say 50. There we go. Now, I'm sure I don't need to tell you how cool it's going to be if we add a plane effector and we switch it to linear, and actually let's make sure we can see it, and we add our effect. Yeah, great. So I am going to change the scale on this, make it absolute uniform scale 2, and so that's, or in fact we could go the other way. Let's increase that to give ourselves a bit more. 100, 100, no, 200. Look at that, appearing maps, and obviously this is MoGraph, so everything is completely under your control. If you wanted this to be a more solid object, that works too. Say for example, if we added in a torus, just drop that in, switch you off, lift you. Oh, and what we can do is we can control the offset here, which gives us a bit more of this puffiness. And then we can just start to create some absolutely nuts effects. Let's put some more detail in. Switch that deformer off because we don't need it. I mean, it's just nuts what we can create. So it's giving you a whole raft of creative capabilities with geographic data. Now, the other thing that DemEarth is exceptionally good at is handling other types of data, such as GP extracts, which you can create from your iPhone, which are GPS loggings of where you've been. I downloaded one earlier from a Google example. So I'm going to show you how that works. And it's literally just a track. Let me see if I've got the history here. Here's the example. Here's the example that we're using. It's just, I just typed in Google GP extracts, but there are apps to develop this from your iPhone, from other GPS types of coordinates, and it's a very useful resource. So we have our little map here of walking through a park. So just save that as a GPX text file, and I am just going to find that. So watch this. We just pull it in. And DemEarth is intelligent enough to just read that and create a mountain scene with our wayfinding points and a sweep object of our pathway. So if I increase the radius on this sweep, there you go. How cool is that? And this is a standard DemEarth object. So again, we can just download Google Sets. And let's just increase the res bit. Wow. Okay. So the other new feature which I want to just quickly show you is this track graph. So I'm just going to connect these two splines into one object. There we go. We don't need the connect object anymore. We've got our sweep, and using the track graph, I can now drop that bar one into here and just click on fit, and there we go. We have a spline which just shows us the elevation in plan. Now you're thinking, whoa, how is that useful to me? Well, it can be useful because it's adaptable at the same time. So if there's any changes within that spline, it can be shown at the same time, and it, again, very useful for motion graphics. But what's even better about this is if we just create a blank scene, it works just with any type of spline. So I'm just going to create a new spline. That's all we need to do is track graph, and there we go. We have a spline beside it. Now it's intelligent enough to just make an elevation map of that spline, but it's also interactive. So I do that, the graph moves as well. So I'm really hoping you can start to see the motion graphics possibilities that are available just with this really simple tool set. Oh, and if we switch off close, there we go. Grab this point down here. I hope that you see just how useful things like this can be. It's giving us a whole range of new tools. So we have the geomodifier, the new UV tools, and I just hope that you can see how well Cinema Plugins have done at creating a new fantastic release of DemEarth, which I'm using a lot, and I hope you will do too. The motion graphics, especially with the geomodifier tools, are now insane and offer us a wide range of tools and new things that we can do to create maps and geographic data. So enough of me prattling on. Go and check out DemEarth at cinemaplugins.com. And the great thing is now we are consistent. We are showing you DemEarth 3 and we are showing you DemEarth 3.